Today, we are tackling what is, I think, the age-old conflict for pretty much any designer. Art versus commerce.
It's the big one.
Right. Every creative professional, whether you're a student just out of college or, running an established studio, you grapple with this one fundamental question.
How do you do it? How do you actually make a living creating meaningful work without completely selling out or sacrificing your core beliefs?
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into sources that ask that very question. How to be a graphic designer without losing your soul.
It really is the central dilemma, and what makes this so powerful is that the source material we're looking at, it's not about glossy trends or software tutorials.
No, this is not a technical manual.
Not at all. It's a really comprehensive guide, and it's packed with hard-won wisdom. It's addressing the ethical, the practical, and even the philosophical challenges that, face every modern creative.
And we're drawing on some really serious insights here. We have detailed advice on everything from tax to client relationships.
And we've got interviews with some leading and often, let's be honest, quite rebellious figures. People like Neville Brody, the iconic designer for the Face magazine.
A legend.
Absolutely. And Rudy Vanderlands, who is the pioneer behind Emigre magazine. These are people who fought these battles.
And the sources make a really crucial point right at the start.
Yeah.
This mission, this deep dive, it is not about how fluent you are with the software.
No, technology is just a tool. It's not a philosophy.
Right. Our goal here is to cut through all that perceived glamour of the creative world and really analyze the real mechanics of survival. We're talking business plans, client pitching, how to manage cash flow, and ultimately how you keep your creative integrity intact in a world that seems to constantly try to commodify it.
And that integrity, it's under more pressure now than it has ever been. The whole role of the designer has just exploded.
In what way?
Well, historically, graphic design was this very narrowly focused thing. It was about print, advertising, typography. That was kind of it.
Sure. Layouts for magazines, logos for businesses.
Exactly. But now the field is just vast. It touches user experience, product architecture, media strategy, digital systems. It's everywhere.
So design careers are much more visible?
Way more visible and often highly scrutinized. And the competition is just fierce, partly because the perceived barriers to entry feel so low to outsiders. Anyone with a laptop thinks they can be a designer.
Which means the need for this kind of advice, the sound, non-technical advice on business and ethics, it's absolutely paramount.
It is. Being a designer today means you have to be an entrepreneur, you have to be an amateur anthropologist, and you need to be a fluent strategic communicator all at the same time.
So if you're only focusing on the pixels, on the final visual, the sources are basically suggesting you're already behind.
You're way behind. You have to understand the business framework within which all that creativity has to operate.
Okay, let's unpack that core tension right away. Let's start our first section by focusing on the essential attributes of a modern designer. And it really all begins with this philosophical conflict. Where does the soul fit into what is essentially a service industry?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the nature of graphic design pulls you in two fundamentally different directions at the same time.
Okay.
On one side, design is pure function. Its job is to solve a specific, measurable business problem. Increase sales, improve user efficiency.
It's a tool for business.
It's a tool. But on the other side, design feels like self-expression. It feels like a form of visual art, and it's driven by your personal taste, your cultural insight, your individual aesthetic vision.
And the sources suggest that the easiest path, and probably the most dangerous one, is just to compromise.
That's it. Many designers, especially early on, they simply accept the role of a service industry provider. They just do what they're told.
And what does that look like in practice?
It means they start treating their creative output like a disposable widget that's just designed to fulfill a brief. And that leads really quickly to self-censorship.
So they actively suppress their own artistic vision.
They do. They suppress it because they start to believe it doesn't have any commercial relevance. The client won't buy it, so why bother?
That's the slippery slope, isn't it? That's how you lose your soul.
That's the exact moment. The moment you start producing work you actively dislike just to pay the rent. The real ambition, according to the experts we're looking at, is to maintain this critical and often really uncomfortable balance.
So it's not pure art, but it's not just a service either.
Exactly. Design has to be seen as a professional discipline that has significant cultural and commercial relevance. It's both.
If you start seeing design as just a trade, just a set of technical skills you're exchanging for cash,
You devalue your own expertise massively. Neville Brody, who famously just shattered the boundaries of visual language, he noted that the problem with many young designers today is this acceptance of commercial servitude.
They see it as a job that could just be outsourced.
Precisely, rather than what it is, which is a demanding, high-value profession that solves incredibly complex problems. You have to constantly fight against that perception.
So if technical skill is just the price of admission, what's the real differentiator? What are the attributes that truly set the modern, soulful designer apart?
The sources really boil it down to 3 key areas. The first one is, and this is crucial, attribute 1, cultural awareness.
Now, that sounds a bit academic, but it's positioned as the key to creating work that has real depth and, lasting resonance.
It is. The sources insist that designers have to become amateur anthropologists. You have to be continuously researching and absorbing cultural cues, symbols, illusions, trends.
You have to be plugged into the world around you.
Deeply invested in what's happening in media, politics, music, literature. If you aren't, your visual language just becomes stunted. It becomes creatively shallow.
You just end up repeating things you've already seen.
Exactly. It goes so far beyond just being able to spot the trendy color palette for the season or the, font of the year on a design blog.
Right.
It's the depth of your understanding that allows you to produce work that has immediate cultural authority. If you aren't constantly learning and absorbing culture from outside the design world, you just end up regurgitating visual cliches you saw on Instagram last week.
And the definitive example of this has to be Neville Brody's work for The Face magazine back in the 80s.
Oh, absolutely. He wasn't just arranging type on a page, he was synthesizing the aggressive, fragmented energy of punk and new wave music.
The political unrest of the time?
The political unrest, the youth culture's desire for rebellion, and he was translating all of that into a new visual vernacular.
So that design resonated so deeply because it was a direct cultural commentary. It wasn't just a layout exercise.
He wasn't just designing a magazine, he was designing the visual identity of an entire subculture, and that cultural absorption means you're communicating using symbols and languages that already have immense power and meaning for your audience.
Without that depth, what happens?
Well, as a design critic like Max Bruinsma might point out, the work risks having very little that's intrinsically interesting or memorable. It just becomes disposable visual noise.
Which brings us directly to the second essential attribute. And this is one that I think a lot of creatives really struggle with.
I think so too. It's attribute 2, communication and selling the idea.
It's fundamental, and maybe the hardest part of the job, to articulate and verbally defend your creative decisions to a non-design audience.
Yeah, designers have to become fluent in verbal language, not just visual language. And the core issue is this. Clients need to buy the idea first.
Before they see the visual.
Way before. They have to feel comfortable with the thinking before they can improve the final execution. And this is especially true because, as the source points out, many clients who lack visual training, they respond purely emotionally to what they see.
So they'll look at a logo and say, I don't like the color blue.
Right. Instead of strategically assessing, does this mark achieve our objective of reaching a younger demographic?
So your job as the designer is to demystify that whole process. You have to explain in plain, simple language why a particular solution works to achieve the client's commercial goals.
And you have to avoid all that technical jargon. Don't talk about kerning or opacity or baseline shifts.
Why not?
Because jargon makes the client feel stupid. It makes them feel excluded, and it completely undermines the trust they're trying to place in you. Effective communication means linking every single visual choice back to the strategy.
And we see this failure to sell the idea constantly in the modern digital workflow, don't we?
Oh, all the time. Designers rush to use tools like Photoshop or, high-fidelity mock-ups to create a visual before the underlying idea is even solid.
And if the visual representation looks like it was easily created,
then the client assumes the idea is easily replaced, and that just dramatically weakens the designer's professional position and turns the entire relationship into a transaction.
so you have to force them to buy the thinking first.
The brain work. That is where the true value lies, not in the pixels.
Okay, so that leads us to the third and, I would argue, the most crucial attribute, the soul anchor. Attribute 3, integrity.
Yes, and this isn't just some vague moral concept. This is about tangible, day-to-day professional conduct.
Integrity in design is the foundation of a career that lasts.
It is, and practically it means adhering to established professional ethical guidelines. The sources we looked at specifically mention the SIA Code of Professional Conduct.
Okay, just for context for our listeners, the SIAD, that stands for the Society of Industrial Artists and Designers, it's a professional body, mostly in the UK, that lays out standards for ethical behavior.
That's right. And it covers everything: respecting copyright, treating your staff fairly, being honest about your capabilities, and critically avoiding conflicts of interest. It provides a shared ethical baseline for the profession.
But the sources argue integrity goes deeper than just following a code.
Much deeper. It penetrates every single business decision you make. It means being committed to paying your suppliers promptly. It means ensuring you are adequately compensated for your time.
And crucially, making sure your personal beliefs are reflected in the work you choose to accept.
This is where Brody's point comes right back in. If you have integrity, you would refuse to work for a client like a tobacco company or a questionable political organization because their fundamental mission conflicts with your ethical philosophy.
That decision requires a huge amount of courage, though. Refusing a well-paying job often means immediate, real-world financial pressure.
It does. But integrity also requires the courage to stand up for the work you've already done. Integrity is what prevents you from treating your creative output as a mere commodity that can just be endlessly manipulated by every piece of client feedback.
So if you constantly fold on your principles or you fail to defend the strategic rationale of your work,
you are effectively telling the client that what you do is cheap and disposable.
and here's where the practical reality hits hardest, I think. The sources say integrity means being prepared to fire bad clients or time wasters.
It's easy to say fire them, but when you're facing cash flow problems, that advice can feel completely impossible.
So what should you be looking for? What are the signs of a bad client?
The sources argue that you have to look for specific patterns: habitual delays in payment, constant unreasonable demands that are way outside the original scope and fundamentally compromise the project's integrity, or clients who just refuse to respect your boundaries.
Those long-term bad relationships are just corrosive, aren't they?
They are completely corrosive to the studio's morale and ultimately its financial stability.
So that's the painful but necessary act of self-preservation.
It is, because by allowing those toxic relationships to continue, you jeopardize the quality of the work you're trying to produce for your good clients.
And without that fundamental integrity, the designer risks treating their work and themselves as just a transactional commodity.
Which, as we establish, is the absolute fastest way to lose the soul this entire deep dive is dedicated to preserving.
Okay, so if maintaining integrity means having the confidence to walk away, let's rewind a bit and see how a designer first establishes that professional footing. We're moving from the high-stakes ethics to the really practical stuff. Section 2 is all about choosing your path, getting hired, and the stark realities of life outside the comfort of college.
And the sources repeatedly stress this. While your design education provides foundational knowledge, typography, color theory, design history, the real learning begins the moment you land your first job.
It's a whole different world.
Completely. The journey from graduate to professional designer is measured in years, not months. And it requires this continuous dedication to learning business practice and production realities, not just refining your aesthetic technique.
Which is why the sources place so much emphasis on what they call the apprenticeship advantage.
Yeah, working in a firm, ideally in a junior role, is the gold standard for learning the reality of the business. You get paid to make mistakes.
That's a huge benefit.
It's massive, and crucially, you learn the practical shortcuts that are necessary for high-volume, deadline-driven work. Things they just can't teach you in school.
Like what, specifically?
Think about what you learn just by being there. Negotiating with printers, managing a client's expectations on timelines, understanding legal contracts for the first time. And maybe most importantly, you get to observe senior designers navigate the messy, non-linear reality of a commercial project.
You see how the sausage is made.
You really do. The source quotes an experienced designer who says it's infinitely better to learn how to deal with tax and payroll by watching a senior partner handle it, rather than trying to figure out all those administrative details on your own while you're under constant financial stress. It's a crucial, structured environment.
So when you're approaching the job hunt, there are some tactical, non-negotiable rules. First and foremost, research is paramount.
Absolutely. You need to know the ethos, the client list, the aesthetic fingerprint of the studio you are applying to. But let's get into the specifics of the application itself.
The letter, the resume.
Exactly. Written applications must be short, literal, and impeccably presented. The ideal length cited in the source is one single sheet of paper.
One sheet. Why so short?
Because busy studio principals want to immediately grasp who you are and what you want. They don't have time to read an essay. And the source warns very strongly against over-designed letters that obscure the message with a bunch of unnecessary visuals.
Or using some unreadable typeface just to look creative.
Right. The presentation has to be tidy, simple, and flawless. The source stresses that these small details signal massive professional competence. For example, you absolutely must ensure all names, the partners, the studio, the contact person, are spelled correctly.
That detail about correct spelling, it seems so minor, but it signals two things employers value deeply, doesn't it?
It does. Respect for the recipient and diligence in your work. If you can't get the name right on the cover letter, how can they possibly trust you with a multi-million-dollar branding project?
Okay, so you get the job. Now you're in the professional world, and you face this fundamental fork in the road. The employment comparison. Studio or agency life versus going in-house. Let's break down the pros and cons of each.
Okay, the studio or agency path. This offers dynamism, variety, and the creative camaraderie of working alongside other designers, writers, artists.
It's where the creative energy is.
It's where you get that intense cultural stimulus and exposure to all these diverse industries, from fashion to finance. It's often the environment where creative boundaries are really tested and pushed.
But the trade-offs are significant.
They are. You usually face intense pressure, often long, unpredictable hours driven by client deadlines, and sometimes lower starting pay compared to big corporate roles. It's a high-burn, high-reward environment. It demands rapid growth and a very high tolerance for stress.
Okay, so what about the other path? The in-house role, working permanently for one corporation, or a media company, or a nonprofit.
This offers much better financial security. You get a steady income and often more predictable hours. 9 to 5 is a real thing.
Right. The administrative burden is managed by the employer, and you get benefits and stability that a small studio often just can't match.
So what's the catch?
Exactly. What's the downside?
The sources suggest the major drawback is often a kind of cultural stagnation. You're focused exclusively on one brand, maybe one small project stream, and that can lead to less cultural stimulus and very repetitive work.
And you probably have less strategic influence over the final outcome.
That's a huge one. You tend to report directly to marketing or sales or communications departments rather than driving the creative agenda from the very top.
So the best choice for you really depends on what you prioritize.
Completely. Do you value financial stability and work-life balance above everything else? In-house is probably your fit. Or do you crave creative variety, intellectual nourishment, and you're willing to sacrifice predictability? Then the studio environment, with all its pressures and energy, is probably where you belong.
But regardless of which path you choose, your personal portfolio remains the single most important tool you have.
It's your shop window, it's your resume, and your personality assessment all rolled into one.
So what does a great portfolio look like? What makes it impressive?
Quality over quantity. That is the iron rule. The source recommends showcasing about 8 to 10 pieces of original, cohesive work.
That number, 8 to 10, feels very specific.
It's crucial because it shows breadth without overwhelming the viewer, and you must rigorously avoid duplication. Showing 3 slightly different versions of the same logo or the same poster design is a major red flag.
What does that signal to an employer?
It signals a lack of variety and, more worryingly, an inability to edit your own work.
And the presentation itself is critical.
Meticulously presented. Ideally in a tidy box, a clean binder, or a custom case. Not a disorganized pile of loose sheets. It signals respect for your own work and for the interviewer's time. But here's the most interesting advice. The portfolio is also a psychological tool for the employer.
How so?
Well, while a prospective employer is assessing your technical skills, what they're really trying to do is assess who you are, your character, your reliability, your passion.
Which is why the sources place so much emphasis on including personal, self-initiated projects.
Exactly. They are so important because they demonstrate your enthusiasm and your passion for design outside of any client constraints. They show what you do when no one is paying you to do it.
So if you want to work in typography, you should include your own type experiments.
Right. If you want to work in branding for the music industry, show some personal projects related to bands or films. These pieces reveal your individual personality and your initiative, which employers value so highly, especially for junior roles where character can often outweigh pure experience.
Now, there's a completely different path that many designers try to pursue: the freelance life. This offers the ultimate freedom, but it comes with a massive, and I think often surprising, amount of personal and administrative responsibility.
The benefits are undeniably seductive, right? The freedom to structure your own day, the ability to work on personal projects, the power to select only the clients you genuinely like.
And, in theory, higher hourly rates.
Generally, yes, the potential for significantly higher hourly rates than a salaried employee, but only if you are billing consistently.
But the pitfalls are immense, and they often sink aspiring creatives.
Oh, they do. First, you must have mandatory ironclad self-discipline, which can be incredibly difficult when you're working from a home office with a dozen distractions.
And then there's the isolation.
The isolation factor is huge. The lack of daily creative camaraderie can be psychologically draining. And critically, the entire burden of financial risk falls solely on you. Managing cash flow, quarterly taxes, retirement savings, health insurance, all of it.
It's that administrative side that kills so many freelancers, isn't it?
It's the #1 killer. As Rudy Vanderlands noted, accounting is not optional. It is an absolute must for the success of any design business, big or small.
And the sources also highlight the complex, sometimes cynical motivations clients have for hiring freelancers.
Right. Clients often hire them believing their work will be purer or more artistic than a larger firm. Or, more cynically, simply because they are perceived as being cheaper or easier to deal with than a big bureaucratic agency.
Which often leads to them trying to lowball your fees.
Constantly. And there is a key financial reason clients use freelancers that speaks directly to your risk. They only pay the hourly rate when they need the work. They don't have that steady payroll commitment that they have with an employee.
So being a freelancer requires you to set up your own payroll, your own tax, your own billing systems from day one.
It sounds like boring bureaucracy, but mastering that administration is literally the difference between creative survival and financial failure.
That brings us perfectly to the next logical stage. If you've survived freelance life, or you've decided to move beyond being an employee, it's time to establish your own studio. Section 3 dives deep into the high-stakes business of running a studio, and the first warning siren is all about choosing partners.
If you are going to start a studio, finding the right partner is absolutely critical and incredibly difficult. The sources explicitly warn against two things.
Really?
First, choosing a partner who is too similar to you. And second, choosing one who prioritizes personal fame or winning awards over achieving long-term business stability.
Why is similarity such a danger? I would have thought that would be a good thing.
Because the ideal team structure requires complementary skill sets. You need to cover 3 distinct essential business pillars. If you and your potential partner are both brilliant, visionary, creative types, who is handling the tax filings?
Who's doing the detailed production schedule, the contract negotiations?
Exactly. The 3 pillars that must be covered for a studio to be stable are: first, creative direction and client relations. That's the vision, the primary designer interface.
Okay, pillar 1.
Second, financial management, business affairs, and tax the grubby essential paperwork, the billing, the accounting. And third, production management, design workflow, and legal compliance, making sure the work actually gets executed efficiently and legally.
And the sources repeatedly highlight that many designers are brilliant at creativity, but they despise administration and financial management.
They do. And this imbalance prioritizing pillar 1, while completely neglecting pillars 2 and 3, is the fastest way to run a studio into financial disaster, no matter how good the work is.
Is there a good example of a successful partnership?
A classic case is Rudy Vanderlands and his wife, Zuzana Licko, with Emigre. While Rudy was often the public face and the driving creative force, Zuzana Licko focused heavily on the financial side, the typesetting, the detailed production of their business. That complementary expertise was absolutely instrumental to their long-term success.
And this is where legal protection becomes absolutely essential, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with the high emotions and the money involved in creative partnerships.
Oh, you have to. Partnership agreements must be thoroughly documented by a lawyer to cover all eventualities, especially the often painful one of dissolution.
You need protection against betrayal, financial disputes, operational disagreements before they happen.
Never underestimate the value of legal foresight. If one partner leaves, or if the studio takes on debt, you need a pre-agreed mechanism to handle the assets and liabilities. The sources emphasize these documents aren't about distrust. They're about establishing clear professional boundaries, which is crucial for financial and psychological health.
That brings us to financial planning, which is consistently identified as the bedrock of studio survival. And the sources are brutally honest here.
They are. Accountants are not a luxury item you can afford later. They are essential for financial survival from day one.
So hire a good accountant early.
Very early. They are necessary for managing tax, organizing payroll, handling bookkeeping, all the parts of the business that most designers are worst at.
Yep.
And the sources advise against ditching an honest accountant who warns you about impending financial trouble for one who just tells you what you want to hear.
A good accountant should be a strategic partner.
A strategic business partner, not just a tax filing service.
And beyond the accountant, the initial business plan must be characterized by honesty and unflinching realism.
Yes. You have to build your model on the assumption that income will be substantially delayed.
Be realistic about projected costs and profits.
Completely. Running a studio involves substantial fixed costs, rent, staff salaries, software licenses, utilities, all before the first invoice is ever paid. One study mentioned in the sources actually showed that a rapid acceleration in income can sometimes lead to financial overconfidence.
And that results in structural failures later on if your expenses outpace the profit you've retained.
Right. You must plan for a significant time lag. If you conservatively project, say, £100,000 in fees for your first year, you need to be financially prepared to survive on maybe £20,000 for the first 8 to 12 months.
Cash flow problems, not bad design, are the single biggest threat.
They're the #1 threat to a new design business. You need a contingency fund to bridge that gap between when you bill a client and when you actually receive the funds.
And finally, running a successful studio requires cultivating a clear studio philosophy, the foundational why that dictates every decision you make.
Yeah, a studio needs an ethical basis that defines its identity, its operational standards, and crucially, how it treats its staff. This philosophy dictates the work standards you accept and the clients you refuse.
So the studio has to consciously decide where it stands on controversial work.
Do we take work from defense contractors? From politically divisive organizations? That single decision defines your moral and your commercial identity.
It's ultimately about prioritizing good work, meaningful, high-quality, strategically sound work, alongside the necessity of making money.
And the sources stress that the philosophy has to encourage creativity, individual development, and respect for all staff members. You have to view them as cultural contributors, not just subordinates processing tasks.
The benefits of a strong, positive cultural philosophy are measurable too.
Oh yeah. Studios with clear ethical boundaries and strong internal cultures, they typically see lower staff turnover, higher loyalty, and often higher profitability because they attract better talent and better clients who respect those boundaries.
And if you don't commit to staff development and creative authorship,
the long-term prognosis for retaining your best talent is very poor.
So the studio philosophy is basically the institutionalized version of the designer's personal integrity that we talked about back in section 1.
That's a perfect way to put it. It is the soul of the business itself.
So we've covered the personal philosophy, the employment path, the business structure. Now let's jump to the most critical interface, section 4, which focuses on the client relationship and the essential, difficult art of winning work.
The source uses a really powerful and lasting metaphor here. It says to treat the client relationship like a marriage.
A marriage.
Yeah, it's an ongoing, continuous effort. It requires patience, empathy, understanding, and most importantly, mutual trust. It is never just a one-time transaction where you hand over the files and walk away.
And like any successful marriage, it has to be based on equality.
It must be. The designer must never accept being treated as merely a subordinate technician who just executes commands. The goal is a truly symbiotic relationship where the designer leverages their creative expertise and the client leverages their commercial expertise.
With both of you working towards a common goal of making the client's business better.
Exactly. And this often means dealing with difficult clients by challenging their fundamental assumptions or their poor direction.
That's a tricky line to walk.
It is. It requires you to understand the client's commercial perspective completely, to know their budget, their market, their pain points, but without yielding control of the design process itself. If a client gives you a bad brief, you have to challenge it constructively.
And explain why their current solution is inadequate in strategic business terms, not just in aesthetic terms.
Right. There's a cautionary tale in the sources about a designer who failed to challenge a client's poor direction on a major corporate identity project.
And it led to a disastrous outcome.
Millions of dollars wasted. The designer blamed the client for being directionless, but the expert in the source noted that the designer should have negotiated a balance and steered the project correctly, using their authority as the creative professional. Failure to challenge a bad brief is a professional failure on the designer's part.
And if that relationship is just chronically toxic or demanding or unsustainable, we come back to that core integrity decision.
Sacking the time waster. Vigilance is needed to spot bad clients early on. Those who habitually delay payment for 90 days or more, who are excessively demanding outside of the agreed-upon scope,
Or who are just consuming a disproportionate amount of time and energy without yielding any real profit.
as the studio principal, you have to have the courage to terminate these unsustainable, corrosive relationships.
It's important to understand the business logic here, isn't it? Long-term bad relationships are a severe drain on a studio's time, morale, and resources.
And by allowing them to persist, you are essentially subsidizing their poor behavior with the time and effort you should be dedicating to your good-paying clients. Walking away, as painful as it is, opens up space for better work.
So moving to winning new business, the source is really clear on this. The most valuable promotional tool is still a reputation for doing consistently good work.
Always. A solid reputation for excellence, for reliability, and for delivering strategic value will always beat aggressive sales tactics and flashy self-promotion.
And for practical self-promotion, the advice is really simple and direct.
It is. Use promotional materials like well-designed postcards, short email newsletters, or simple, informative websites that accurately and authentically showcase your design studio's identity.
And the source strongly warns against the hard sell approach.
Right. Avoid creating these large, garish, overly expensive brochures or trying to look like a global mega agency if you are a small 5-person firm. Authenticity in your presentation matters just as much as the content itself.
Okay, let's address a really critical ethical and financial issue in winning work today, the free pitch debate.
The source strongly advises avoiding free pitches, period, because they fundamentally devalue the designer's time and intellectual effort.
When a client asks for a free pitch, what are they really asking for?
They are essentially asking the designer to perform significant, uncompensated labor, often weeks of strategic thinking and execution, on the very small chance that they might win the business.
But let's interrogate this a bit. A young, hungry firm might feel they have no choice. They have to pitch for free just to get their name out there. How do the sources suggest you defend against that pressure?
The key advice is that if a studio absolutely must engage in pitching, it must be paid for its time and presentation.
Ah, so that's the difference. It's not a free lottery, it's a paid professional consultation.
Exactly. By paying for the pitch, even if it's just a nominal fee, the client demonstrates a serious commitment to the process and to the designer. It forces them to respect your time and treat the effort as a professional service, rather than shopping for free ideas.
That reframes the entire dynamic. The creative staff is paid for their intellectual effort.
And the client receives a much higher quality of presentation because the designers feel valued and respected.
And as the studio grows, efficiency demands specialization. The sources advise establishing a dedicated new business role.
This means hiring a dedicated non-designer to handle sales, market research, and client development. This administrative function removes the constant burden of salesmanship and networking from the creative staff,
Which allows the designers to focus purely on design execution, which is their true value add.
That's it.
Finally, the presentation itself. This is the ultimate test of all your communication skills. This is where designers win or lose the client relationship and the project. And the core rule here is what the source calls the immovable law.
The immovable law of presentation is simple, but it's revolutionary. Tell your audience what you're going to show them and tell them what it is that they are going to see before they actually see it.
That seems really counterintuitive. Don't you want the dramatic reveal, the big ta-da moment?
No, because that's what leads to a purely emotional reaction. This preparation is vital because it demystifies the process, and more importantly, it controls the client's initial reaction.
How does it do that?
If you just throw a highly crafted visual at a client without any context, they immediately react to the aesthetics. Do I like the shade of red? Is the type too small?
But by verbally controlling the narrative beforehand.
By saying, for example, we are about to show you 3 concepts that address the need for market differentiation and cultural resonance. You force them to evaluate the strategic value and the intellectual rigor behind the design, rather than just reacting to subjective colors or shapes.
So it trains the client to think like a partner.
Yes. You must talk about the strategic objectives and the rationale first, maintaining eye contact, listening intently to their questions. The presentation is the designer's opportunity to demonstrate that they are a serious strategic problem solver, not just a highly skilled technician.
You are selling a solution. not a sketch.
And this final step, the presentation, it really encapsulates all the attributes we've discussed. It demands cultural awareness to frame the context, flawless communication to articulate the strategy, and professional integrity to stand by the solution you've presented.
This has been a truly expansive deep dive. And across all of our sources, the message is remarkably consistent, isn't it? Technical skill is merely the price of entry into the professional design world.
It's just the starting point. The long-term path to success requires mastering integrity, solid business acumen, knowing your tax, managing your cash flow, documenting your partnerships, and it requires mastering fluent, jargon-free communication skills and nurturing a continuous, demanding cultural curiosity.
So success, therefore, is not about technical brilliance. It's about balancing that commercial reality with a clear, self-defined creative philosophy.
And we've seen that the most important quality for a designer, according to these experts, is the courage to stand up for their work and for their beliefs. They have to be willing to walk away from work that compromises their standards or their principles, regardless of how financially attractive it might seem in the moment.
Which brings us to our final thought. If the relentless commercial world seeks to standardize and commodify every single creative effort, then does preserving your soul ultimately mean you must be willing to be fired from your best jobs, or, perhaps more accurately, cultivate the ruthless discipline required to fire your worst clients?
I think that's the question. If the acceptance of that risk, the willingness to uphold your integrity and your professional standards over immediate financial gain is the most reliable predictor of long-term creative success, then the true cost of keeping your soul is the willingness to regularly confront the possibility of walking away from your livelihood. That willingness to risk it all for the integrity of the work is something every designer at every level needs to constantly measure and recalculate. Because if you aren't prepared to walk, you've already lost the negotiation.